Former President of India, late Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam, had said, competition is powered by knowledge, knowledge is powered by technology, and technology is powered by innovation. And here lies the key to RAAIF's objective.
I think I'm the least qualified to be standing here and talk to you. But in my current role, which is absolutely student-facing, engineering colleges and technical higher education student-facing, we have had our own little experiments, which is born of very, very profound engagements with even children in school. And so I think I'll pick on that credential and the fact that I was a teacher in my yesteryears in maths, physics and chemistry, even running a school for a short time because the principal fell sick for 6 months. So yeah, I think I'll create my own credentials on that and like to share a few thoughts of mine, which are not completely aligned with IBM, but then I do pick from IBM's wealth of and points of view on what possibly could be the way we look at the future of education and the way it's going in India. So because I have been working in the technical higher education space, we are not new to this topic as such, because this has been in the arena of colleges and universities. And I'm really amazed and I'm very happy that Chris and the team have brought it into the discussion ring of schools. I think because in college, it's a bit too late to even sit down and think aloud saying that, are we producing the right talent for what the industry needs and so on and so forth. Because that's just a 4-year undergraduation with a max another 2 years of post-graduation. So what would you do in 6 years? You could do a lot more in the more impressionable years, which are twice as long, 12 years in K-12. So I think, therefore, this discussion is even more poignant and to that extent profound. Because I guess most of you are teachers, let me take resort to the teacher's style and the DNA of analogies and examples. Let me tell you 2 small stories and take away hopefully a lesson from that. There was this wonderful engineer, automobile engineer, who had designed this fancy car, and it was already set for the inaugural day, and it had to be brought out of the factory into the place which was demarcated for the launch. And then they just realized WhatsApp is good sometimes. I read this on WhatsApp last night. So to that extent, there must be a lot of repeats here. So I believe when he tried to bring it out, there was this little construction which prevented, and the car was just 1.5 inches or more. And therefore, the engineer came out and said he would demolish or chop away a portion of the cement, the masonry, and then repair it later and have a beautiful car there for the inaugural. Then came the guy who was an interior decoration, an engineer himself, and he said, it's okay, it's just about 1.5 inches, and we could possibly bring it through. And then with a little bit of scratch and do away with the scratches and buff it up before the inaugural. But there was this managing director, the owner of the place, his son, from K-12, who was watching all this. I'm making this up. Okay, and the story goes on WhatsApp as a watchman, but I'm saying it could have been my son, it could be your nephew. So this guy is watching it and this walks up and says, you know what, Dad, I think you can deflate the tires about 1.5 inches and then roll it out and inflate it again, right? Story number 2. This happened for real in a place in Kerala. Sometimes back when I used to read, and I was in love with Reader's Digest. Medical college, an operation, a life-saving operation going on to remove a frog, a live frog, from the brain of a child, not an adult. Somehow, I think the waterways, playing around in the waterways, maybe a tadpole went and said, we don't know how it got there, that's another subject. But the fact is there's a live frog, the scans have said that, and there is an operation going on. They've opened up the skull, and there is this glass window through which the medical students are actually watching what's going on. The chief surgeon and his assistants are all with 20, 30 years of experience sweating it out, saying they've got 5 minutes more, otherwise they're going to lose this life on the table. And so when they've given up on all their ideas, collective experience, he grabs the microphone and talks to the students and says, hey, anyone from there got an idea? And then one student says, is the frog really alive? Yes, it is alive. Okay, so please get a small bowl of water and take it close by, so the frog can see it. And when, like some of our people love the Taskmax of the world, just gravitate towards that. The frog gravitated towards, jumped off without clawing away anything. Any forceps or any pincers would have actually, to take the frog, would have come away with portions of the brain. with irreversible damage to the child and leaving a vegetable. But here was a healthy child, the surgery was over. Now, what has education done to these surgeons? What has education done to that engineer and that interior decorator? I don't know. I'm not trying to be diminutive of education, as we just heard Nathan comment. It's a lot of good things happening there. It has to continue. But what beyond? I think taking a cue from that, look at India today, in the information technology space. We are a country of close to 4 million application developers, software application developers. We were as low as 3.7 last year. And NASSCOM has made a projection that this number would cross the 5 million and become 5.2 or odd by December of 19. It's like tomorrow night, overtaking the United States. And at 5 million plus, and being the world's #1 largest pool of skills developers, what would be the quality that we would exhibit? My colleague from the industry here would definitely agree that we are not really making a mark in that, barring a small percentage, the Pichays of the world and our other leaders who are leading in very sterling ways. But the vast majority. Google had a conference, I believe, in Delhi some time back, about a year and a half, and they made some comment, I heard this from a professor, that there was just 4% and under contribution to their Play Store from an Indian context. Yes, we are #1. We will be #1 soon in terms of headcount, but will be. So what is that quality? Where is that quality missing? Let me go to an example that I'm so much fascinated with in the recent times. My day job is with colleges. But recently, in recent months, we have been taking a look at K-12. Students from 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th and 12th. And yesterday in Bangalore, in a school with 6th graders as well, competing with 12th standard guys on the same hackathon. They call it a Code Fest though. They call it a Code Fest 2018. This was Oak Ridge International. Some of the brightest questions came from a 6th standard guy. Adi is his name, Aditya. And he was talking, he actually gave a demo of Python and running a regression analysis, and he was coming up. And I was wondering what was going on. I spent a whole week last week with Tanmay Bakshi, including at IIT. We came in with entrepreneurship cell there. This is a 14-year-old Punjabi boy, but who's now settled in Canada. These children, and there is this wonderful not-for-profit organization in Bangalore, not much heard of, Spark, ignites a spark in children. Should have actually asked you to invite Neeraj Khanna to come and be here today. He would have been an awesome speaker on this occasion because of the wealth of information. He says, and let me quote Neeraj, the founder and chairman of Spark in Bangalore, when we conducted a hackathon for school children. He says, children are bored with their curriculum. They can do it with the little finger of the left hand and possibly get a robot to help them in that. So what do they do the rest of the academic year? I was talking to Tanmay Bakshi because I was with him in a couple of cities, Coimbatore, Chennai, and then in Bhopal and Indore. So, going through so many dinners and so many airports and so many, you really go beyond. And he started taking photographs of mine and morphing them into a lady version and a Yul Brynner version and all of these things. And he did it with neural networks. And the way he was playing, and I asked him, so what do you do? I study from home. It's a home school. So we work from home. He studies from home. Now these children, as I saw him the first time in June of 2016 in an IBM meeting, which was a Developer Connect meeting, the way he was talking and the way he went through with it, and again when I saw him last week, talking and demonstrating stuff which some of our IBMers also perhaps would struggle to cope with, because of the newness of the subject. But what appealed to me and what struck me was how many such Tanmay Bakshis are there out in every single classroom, especially in tier 2, tier 3 cities of this country. I'm a business consultant in the last 10, 15 years out of my 30 plus years of work experience. But my last 4 years have been the most enjoyable because I don't have to drive a revenue. Okay? And I'm full-time into taking IBM's academic initiatives to these school students. If I put an effort X in the metros, I get back a return of 0.5x. I'm just giving you, it's not a scientific number. But if I were to go to Mysore, if I were to go to Dharwad, if I were to go to Trichy, if I were to go to Jaipur, or if I were to go to Guwahati, if I put in the same effort, the same X effort, I would get back a return of 2x. There's that hunger in the students and the faculty and the management alike. So I think when we talk and discuss about the future of education in India, we need to take note of this fact that there is a lot of potential. While we are definitely numero uno in capacity, there is quality potential available. Question is, how do we get from here to here? How do we get from point A to point B? And I think it's already come out in various ways in the talks we've had so far. It's not just enough to turn to the government. Yes, they have a role and the policies they come out with, but it has to do with society, and that includes you and me as parents and uncles and doting aunties, with our nieces, nephews and our children. Remember the time when you were hesitant to even open a net banking account? I set up the first net banking system in a faraway Pacific Island nation on real-time systems. And one day at the most embarrassing time when the managing director of the bank asked me, he said, Lawrence, I looked for your name and you're not yet opened an account with us. I said, I don't trust your cases, damn it, I'm cancelling my order with you. So, but today we've come a long way. We don't hesitate to put our children's photos in Bharat Matrimony. But imagine when it was started, how we were hesitant. So society is changing, but are we, in India, are we changing fast enough? So that's the second layer. And the perceptions born of attitudes in society. And third, the teachers. I think there's no point in just sitting down and saying children are getting bored, this is getting bored. I think here it is, you are the agents of change. The teachers are the agents of change. Always was. When I look back, at my life, and even today, some of the best moments I've had is when I meet an old teacher of mine. Most of them have gone up and met with and partying with St. Peter there. But the one or two that I still meet, I tell you, I prefer that to any other wonderful evening on a beachside. It gives us this nostalgic moments. So where is that gone today? I want to go into, again, because I borrow the DNA that you are familiar with as teachers, educere, the etymology of education. Educere is to draw forth, to draw from. What are we doing? I don't know how many of you have gone into fish markets and seen these fishmongers in action. Could well apply for some other goodies as well, but since I am a fish lover, you happen to enter a fish market, they'll say, inga vaanga sir, ara kilo 200 rupees sir. They keep jumping at you, they keep pushing their wares on you. Are we as teachers pushing our wares inside? Or are we trying to draw forth? Like a well, getting the best out of it. It's about, education is just about creating that environment. Can a gardener ever go and make a rose tree better than what it was designed and created to be? All that the gardener can do is to loosen the soil, give it the amount of right mix of shadow, shade and sunlight, give it the right amount of pruning, and then the rose blossoms. These are there. These two examples, these stories I quoted, I mean, deflating a tire or getting a job, frog to jump out into a bowl of water, and a million other things. If you crowdsource this point, I'm sure we'll get a wonderful encyclopedia of examples. What does it all show? The wisdom of the children is natural, it is there. And the quality of Indians, and I don't know, this is not scientific, but I just feel like that. And I'm old enough to make this comment. The quality of our children's wisdom and this kind of innovativeness is unparalleled, Seriously, I mean, I get emotional when I think of this because I've got live examples running in my mind. In IBM, we used to have ThinkPads, laptops which were called ThinkPads. And we used to hammer this word, think, 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 think. We are 106, not out. Okay? The closest competition is not even half as much. And that's because we have outthinked ourselves. Somewhere somebody had the wisdom to come and say, guys, stop inventing. Stop inventing. Or keep inventing, but get into innovation. And the way we spell, we have our own dictionary for innovation. The way we spell innovation is RE-invention. Reinvention is innovation for us. Because inventions are fantastic, but they're not day-to-day. They're not daily matters. These are rare and happens once in a while. Apples do fall on people's head even today, but it takes someone to define gravity, right? It happens. When IBM discovered RISC computing, it was definitely an innovation which made its mark on the information technology space. And when we created that little mouse, the button, which was, the most precise pointing device in all of, laptops, personal systems, it was truly an invention. But these things are rare. So are we looking at breakthrough technology? Are we training our children for breakthrough technology? Pushing them to say, come on, do this paper, do this internal assessment, do this project, do that thing, do that thing. Or are we just looking around and seeing, how to get the frog to jump out, how to get the car through without any of these, unwanted things? Where is our education headed? Where is our attitude? Where is our outlook? As teachers, technology today is definitely a leverage that we need, is a lever that we need to hit. If we don't leverage that, we cannot. So much has been spoken of artificial intelligence and all that. Well, it happened almost 6 decades back when the term AI was coined. And it's gone through a lot of changes. It's not arrived yet, but neither has the train left the station. It's somewhere in between. But we've gone through 2 winters of artificial intelligence already in this brief 6 decades. Yes, but the way it is going and all this talk on this paranoia of automation taking away jobs and taking away work is the steam engine story. Life continued right after the steam engine, and life continued after electricity came in, and so many new things were created. So there is only that point, maybe as Nathan said, that down in 2070 or whatever, perhaps it will be the same. But today, man and machine, that's IBM's point of view. It's not man versus machine, but man with machine. In fact, classical mythology has a term for this, which is half horse, half man and half horse, and that's a centaur. So I think today, even this, when we are in this algorithmic age and we get machines to learn, it's not throwing in a defined, predefined stuff and getting the machine to do what it was. IBM showed that in the game of chess that we got a computer to play called Deep Blue. But today, when we played the next game, the next expensive game, Jeopardy, it was all about understanding and getting close to all the human attributes and augmenting the human intelligence, going beyond text to speech and speech to text. So as teachers, I think you need to take note of this and see what we can get into it. How much of this knowledge do you have? You have a lot. But how much of it do you share? Sharing is twice learning. So, how many teachers today in colleges, in schools, even have a social influence? They have an influence inside the classroom, but do they have a social influence? In IBM, we have to have a certain level of SQ, not spiritual quotient, but social quotient. And there are tools today that measure your social quotient. If I am not influential socially enough, I can't be an ambassador of IBM or a student developer advocate into the student community. Prema, just inform me about the time, just sort of tell me, because I have this problem with, I don't look at my watch. So just flag me down when it's time. I think it's very imperative that we share. The present chairman, president, and CEO, 3-in-1, Ginny Rometty of IBM says this. She said it as a New Year message last year. There's soon going to be a time when we IBMers, and she's talking about IBMers, and I'm applying that to everyone, are going to be measured not by who we are, what we study, the years of experience we have gained, and the work we have done, but we're going to be paid, compensated for what we share. So here is a practical takeaway. The future of education, we can keep talking till the cows come home in the morning and we can go through debates and all kinds of formats. And there will be an awesome and a veritable list of things, of actions that we can take for ourselves. But I think one important thing is, whilst you have made a big improvement in acquiring and coping with all the newer technologies, start sharing that. Let me give you a practical example. You give an internal assessment in colleges. In schools, you may call it a project work or weekend work or whatever. You go back and you do a pencil and paper stuff, and you evaluate it and give 5 upon 10 or a 9 upon 10 or whatever. Why not crowdsource that? This is an era of crowdsourcing for almost everything. So why can't we have an internal assessment done through crowdsourcing? That is, if this is a classroom, all peers, we propose a subject and we say the submissions have to be done only on tweets. Luckily now 140 is no more, that we have twice as much. Okay, so that makes it even easier. And so don't put limits like 500 words and 200 tweets. Just allow the students to come up with stuff. It's all out there, the open. Everyone can read everyone's. And then get the team to do the evaluation. Of course, you always got the veto button. As a professor, if you find something very unhealthy happening, you can always hit that button. This could be one simple, I mean, it sounds silly, I know, but I think we need to come up with, being foolish like this and being hungry at the same time to come up, and maybe 50% of that will hit jackpot. And we are already on our way. So I think as we brace ourselves for a future which is driven by cognitive and cloud and all of these wonderful technologies, and in some literature of RAAIF, I found a mention of deep learning and neural networks, and while all of these things will happen, we as educators need to get into it in a manner where we don't push stuff but elicit stuff by creating environments which is conducive. And there is hardly today, there are colleges that are experimenting, and I'm sure there will be schools as well. I don't have that much experience by talking to them, but I'm sure they're beginning to realize that the traditional classroom, instructor-led classroom is changing. The schools and the classrooms of a few years from now will not be anything like what it was or is even today, right? And therefore, what is the difference that we can do? I know of a professor who is now since retired in Bangalore, who in his zoology class would talk for just 2 minutes, and the rest of the time his students would talk. And initially it was inviting criticism from peers, even the principal was concerned, but they encouraged him, and today it's become a wonderful method of teaching, because the children have all the information they want on digital sources. We have a glut of information today. So do you have to be one more Google? Can you be even 1/10 of Google or 1/100th of Google? We can't pretend to be like that. The children will be 5 pages far ahead of it. All that we can do, like for example in the hackathon yesterday, is sit down. That guy knows Python. The best joke was the IBM who went there. He was very deep in a particular area, and Python was not part of his dictionary. So he was calling me and saying, Lawrence, can you get someone with a Python experience? So if we try to do it the way they do it, we are not going to get it. We need to just show them. And in fact, that guy ultimately gave up his environment, and he actually started working on the cloud platform, and then he realized that he can do it faster, better, and create lots more in the given time. That was an eye-opener for him, and it only happened, it happened by an IBM who did not know Python. So, on a closing note, I would like to say this. We in IBM have always been looking at this problem of how do we get our coders, our developers, do things which they are actually best at. When we from the industry go to hire from a campus, what are we looking for? The CGPAs and all of these things are mere disqualifiers, or rather filters. Okay? What we are really looking for is that innovative streak. And that needs to come out. And so IBM, with its set of tools and the cloud that we have evolved to now, we are the last ones to get into the cloud, but today we are in the top 3 and doing extremely well on a business side, and so we can translate that into our engagements with schools and colleges. The basic purpose of elementary school education, we know, is to learn to speak, write, and reading as well. Read, write, and speak. But I think it's no longer a 3. You have to add the 4th one, coding. Coding is fast becoming an essential. And it doesn't have to be with any prerequisite, or you don't have to have that special right lobe of your brain which is superior to the rest in the classroom. There's no extras required for this coding, because it's becoming a life skill almost, and it has reached that level. Already, some European countries have done this. I think India, who mentioned the inflection point? I think it was Nathan again who mentioned the point of it. We are at the point of inflection. There was a time when people from always anything, be it fashion, be it technology, be it medical innovation, everything happened in the West, and it took its own time to come down to India. Of course, the time gap kept reducing, but today I think it's gone a whole circle. We have reached the point of inflection. I think we need to tell people how education needs to be done in the future, and I think that starts, apart from catching hold of Dr. Santosh and telling your government has to do this, they will keep doing. Okay, so while that happens and policies keep changing and the society will move along, I think the achani of the whole magic is in the hands of the teachers. It always was. It always will be. You cannot, MOOCs cannot replace a teacher. Google cannot replace the teacher. Because that touch, that particular tending which the gardener gives to the rose plant, they say green hands, right? If I get into the rose garden, that rose tree will die. But if my wife touches it, somehow it blossoms nicely. I don't know how it is able to make it. There is something into it, and that's the magic of the teacher. So all that you need to do is continue your knowledge improvement, but share it. That's my only simple prescription here, if you let me get prescriptive, to get into that. And inculcate in them this ability to get frogs to jump off a brain and deflate tires as well. It's good fun. Thank you very much for having me.